Okay, so I got another video idea because I've been sitting in this room thinking, and this is something I want to talk about. This happened, I would say, maybe late December to January when I was in North Carolina, and it was snowing at 15 degrees, but somebody was playing a song. I could tell it was Lil Wayne, and I could tell it was about unaliving yourself. And it kind of made me think about drill music. And it made me think about my dad, and it made me think about just different things in the whole Lil Wayne initiation situation. Different things I researched since 6, more so 7, and just things that I've pieced together throughout the years. Also, the fact that one of the reasons I can't listen to music is because when people sing, especially these industry people, I can see everything that's happened to them in their life, especially the trauma side, since music is made to appeal to people under certain forms of trauma-based mind control. And it's literally the soul fractures and splits that help write the lyrics, which are attached to the trauma. Aside from the fact that music is spiritual and people's soul is in the music, and also the souls or the spirits that help write the music, but overall, the music is them, and it's an extension of their self and their soul fractures. A lot of it comes from a dark place anyways, because as we should know, our multiple personalities commonly write the music. And it comes out of a place of hurt, pain, trauma, bullcrap, substances. I should start off with something that I've realized most people don't talk about, partly because a lot of people have forgot about these songs, but songs like How to Love by Lil Wayne and that song, Runaway Love, there was a Runaway Love by... I don't even remember these people's names, I'm not gonna lie. I know Kanye did one, and then this dude with like locks or something, and some lady did another one. People think that these dudes or these industry people are making these songs for like, I don't know, little girls or something. They're singing about theirself and their own life experiences, and even current life experiences. And I was able to luckily start doing research on things like MKultra splits, beta sex kit and programming and all that from literal childhood, which I consider to be under age 10. Because I really don't like the whole child label due to the adultism and oppression that goes along with that. But, anywho, so I was able to understand even myself more, because I already could tell there was like a lot of generational curses, and I just used to think about when I would try to figure out things, what issues I had, I would just think about the lust spirits, until at 8 I did more research and found out about the incubus and succubus spirits, or more so the marine kingdom. A lot of the research I did, especially revolving around backmasking, beta sex kit and programming, hypersexuality, subliminal messages, and other types, it made me realize that it'd probably be better for me if I didn't really watch a lot of TV or listen to music. Not that I really ever liked the chomo R&B stuff or any of that anyways, but I realized it would be better for me since the sexual spirits in the music are made to like initiate you into having these issues or worsen your issues. This is why dudes who have been or are being essayed, like DaBaby, like Lil Wayne, NBA Youngboy. This is why Jezebelic dudes and women who have been essayed, like people like Megan Thee Stallion, Daniel Bergoli. Not that any of these people in the industry that are puppets don't go through SRA as part of their trauma-based mind control. And as I've talked about before, people like Daniel Bergoli, I mean, obviously she went through a public humiliation ritual with the whole Dr. Phil thing, and then she was in the Cash for Kids system, specifically the TTI branch cult. There's like a lot I could say about that, but They go through a lot of different types, but I'm mostly going to focus on the essay type. Of course, people like Nicki Minaj. We all know that, well, hopefully some people know the story of Rihanna. She was pretty much kidnapped. Nicki Minaj was a part of the Queensbridge Project. Or I guess I could say maybe the continuation of the Queensbridge Project. The original Queensbridge Project was when they brought in people like Mobb Deep, which was Havoc, and Prodigy, which they were obviously always dating from a very young age. But anywho, I don't remember really any of the other people from the Queensbridge Project's names, so point is, music is made to appeal to people under certain forms of trauma-based mind control. That's what I realized really young. I know a lot of people just feel like, I don't know, I just talk about things because I'm traumatized and messed up, but it's always appealed to me even before the calamities started calamity-defying. The little clips I did see of I Shall Speed throughout the years, because I never watched his stuff and was never really into, I guess, streamer type stuff or whatever the content is supposed to be, but I definitely did see a couple of clips throughout the years, and I noticed that he was really hypersexual, and I also noticed that only kids who have been or are being essayed, at least as far as the ones I knew personally, liked I Shall Speed. So there's that. Another thing is that, oh yeah, and then also the fact that like him and other people are used to push this like turned out agenda. And then one of the worst things about it is that like you'll see, what's his name? Reiki? Something like that. I think that's his name. It's like you notice that I know I Shall Speed is like a little older now, but still it's like young guys making jokes about having relations with grown men and stuff, and it's just like, but that's the agenda they're pushing. People focus on like just the turned out side, but the real agenda, it always starts with chomoism, and then all the other paraphilias come after that, not the other way around. But, oh yeah, something I forgot to say. So, I remember when I was maybe about 9 or 10. No, I was 10. These girls were talking about Justin Bieber, and they were talking about how he said something about marrying a baby. And then this one girl was like, yeah, he's crazy. And just to think, what was her name? I think Callie. And just to think Callie used to think that he was cute. And I was like, the only reason he's talking about marrying a baby is because he's been turned out due to the rituals. And you only get those types of issues from going through the rituals first yourself. The Virgo, Vasal, and other stuff. Of course, nobody ever really knows what in the world I'm talking about. But of course, I was also already known as like the demon-possessed hypersexual person who people already felt like was going to be a future R-worder. So nobody really cared about anything I had to say because they just felt like I was making up excuses for just quote-unquote bad behavior. And of course, plenty of trafficking victims have been in the rooms when things were happening to Bieber, when Bieber was witnessing stuff happening to whoever. They've been in the rooms when things were happening to Michael Jackson. Like, honestly, it reminds me of something that my mom's boyfriend would say, or not would say, did say once, where he was like, if I really wanted to know anything, I would ask homeless people, because homeless people see everything because they're always outside. And it makes me think about higher level SRA traffic victims. If you want to know something, you should probably ask them because they've seen a lot of things, they know a lot of things. They've been around a lot of higher up people in high positions. And so they know about a lot of agendas that are being pushed and things that are set to happen. But anywho, what was I about to say? Oh yeah, so the overall point I was supposed to be getting at. So we all know, apparently people like Lil Wayne and even NBA Youngboy, which I only recently found out, are both from Louisiana. So probably sons of witches, but overall, they somehow got into the industry, whether they had like a Freemason family. I know Lil Wayne said that he used to be forced to perform and sing by his relatives. So like when people would come over, that would make him just stand there and sing and freestyle for hours. So they had plans of selling him out, but you're never told the full story. These people are really always in bloodlines or Mason families. The situation with him being essayed by the babysitter when he was, I can't even really remember, maybe 8 or something, 10. She was, I think, a teenager, or 12, 13, I can't even really remember. Then there's also another story about, like, Birdman telling a babysitter and other people to essay him. Of course, the thing that Birdman does to everybody, apparently, where he comes into the lives of people, of kids, and then says, I'm gonna be your stepdad. And boy, man, I'm not even gonna lie. Whenever people come up to you talking about some call me stepdad, call me dad, call me unk, if I'm not saying he had a choice, but I'm just saying, like, I've ran into a few Marine Kingdom agents like that myself, and, like, it's like the scariest thing about these types of things to me is that the reason that they tried on me is because they tried it on somebody else and it worked. So Birdman said that he was going to be his dad. And one of the things about this is that one of the worst ways to fracture the soul is by having a parent figure abuse or essay the kid. That's like one of the worst forms of trauma-based mind control, especially if it starts in infancy. And another thing about adoption, or this supposed adoption, is that adoption also holds in, like, the spirit realm as well. So if somebody was to, like, come and say they were going to adopt me right now, and we agreed on this, then that would stand in the spirit realm to where any generational curses they have will be passed down to me, because adoption holds in the spirit realm, which is the same reason why, what was his name? Joseph, I'm pretty sure. Joseph had to adopt Jesus Christ for him to become the son of David through the generational line. So Birdman, quote-unquote, adopted Lil Wayne as he did others. Like the Black Beatles or Ray Strimmer and them, and NBA Youngboy, around the time NBA Youngboy suspiciously got herpes. During what was that? I think that was his first viral song, No Smoke, I think. Maybe 2018, maybe 2016, maybe 2017. Birdman did the usual Virgo vasal sodomy rituals on Lil Wayne starting at 10 or younger. That's to further split and fracture the soul so he can have the different personalities that go along with the innocent and bloodshed rituals, and that also help write the song. Celebrities are channelers, and they channel the lyrics. And also, at the point in time Lil Wayne took off and other rappers took off, especially in the 2010 era, not like before the sad boy thing. No, actually, not even that. Early 2000s to the 2010 era, you'll also notice that the frequencies in the music sounded a little bit more upbeat. Like it was more pop type music. And it was less like 808 slides and less darker frequencies. Not that the frequencies weren't still bad, but they sounded more upbeat. Like, for example, I like to talk about this one a lot. The instrumental that was definitely not made by a human being in the song Moment for Life by, what's her name? Nicki Minaj. Or, Beta Sex Kid and Programming Queen. The lady with, not Sasha Fierce, that's Beyonce. Roman. You could see that, like, that was pretty upbeat. And from the beginning of gangster rap till especially this point up into the 2010s, when they still use more upbeat semen frequencies, that was when the most mind control was done with the music. Okay, this is going to be all over the place. I'm going to have to go ahead and say that if I didn't already, because I always forget some bull crap that's really, really important. So, going back to the Birdman thing once again. There was a point in time where Lil Wayne's mom was like, yeah, I don't want you around them anymore, they're evil. And it's like, now you have a problem? But it was due to all the Virgo vasal sodomy rituals and the whole being turned out thing, which led to Lil Wayne falling in love with Drake during the Young Money fiasco. The Young Money label? Or was it Legal Drug? No. It was Legal... Which was, I believe, Lil Wayne's own label after he had left Hot Boys, which that's when he was with Juvenile and those other Louisiana people. And I know Nicki Minaj was in Young Money. I don't remember who else. So his mom was mad, and then that's when he got really depressed because of all the essay. So I can go ahead and get to the point. And that's when he SH0T'd himself in the chest at 12. This is a story that Lil Wayne's talking about in the video where people say he's a house nigger, where he's talking about how he doesn't believe in white supremacy because when he got SHOT'd in the chest, it was a white cop that saved his life. But he doesn't talk about what even led up to that happening, although it was a short clip. And it also makes sense that he would get to the whole house nigger, quote unquote, phase or stage, not just because he's like an industry person, but because it was his own quote unquote black family that sold him out. And that's what people love to leave out. Like I noticed in BJ Investigates comment section, people are mad and trying to make her seem like the white woman that talks on black issues because she's talking about Nova from Soft White Underbelly. The situation, or the one situation from Soft White Underbelly that people have really taken a lot of attention to, especially since the recent RICO indictment of, well actually it's not even recent, but it's being talked about again by law enforcement with the whole Hoover LA people, which has actually made me think about making a video again about that pimp I met from LA that moved to GA. It was also a chomo in that whole situation that went down with me, him, and some Mexican dude. And I would call him the light-skinned Mr. Bean because I swear, he looked like Mr. Bean, but if he was a light-skinned. Like, it was actually really crazy. Like, he had the same, like, facial shape and the mole under his nose, but he was quote-unquote black. I guess. Something like that. Because it makes me think, like, I honestly really believe that he moved to GA with his mom to escape getting charges or getting caught behind the stuff that he was doing to women and definitely kids too in LA, but that's a whole nother video. But anywho, as I always say, quote-unquote black people and quote-unquote white people are very similar. Both have no accountability, and they don't want to really face any of the issues they have or really talk about it. And whenever anybody else talks about it, they're racist or there's something else, or it's not just us. And it's like even when people of True Yashirel talk about the issues of True Yashirel, people will come in the comment section talking about some, okay, but it's not only in the black household. Like in that one screenshot from the video I made about paraphilias. Is that even the most recent one? Because I made a lot in the past couple months. But anywho, a lady was talking about essay in the family system, and somebody was like, well, it's not only in black households, and she's like, well, obviously not. It's actually really normalized in a lot of quote-unquote white communities, but she's not talking about them. And that's what people seem to not realize, that people are just talking about what they happen to be talking about at the moment, but people just no accountability. That's really the only thing to really say about it. He's upset about what his family community did to him and allowed to happen to him. Of course he's going to get that way. A lot of people, not that he said, like, he hates quote-unquote black people, but a lot of people get to the whole, I hate black people, I hate white people, even though I'm white and I only like black people. And I actually had a lady telling me this, and I was like, honestly, it's all kind of the same. Not that I'm trying to, like, knock what happened to her with her family and her community, but, like, there's no community nowhere. Like, I even know this one person who makes a lot of Facebook posts about Mexicans, and she's Mexican. And I'm not even gonna lie. I get it, but it's like, shoot. I'm thinking about one of them, but anywho. But yeah, people want somewhere to turn their anger, and when people turn their anger on who hurt them or what hurt them, no one really wants to take accountability for anything that happened. And I know people will be like, well, why do I gotta take accountability for something that has nothing to do with me? But, like, it's a societal and ethnic and community issue, quote unquote community. As I always say, everything that happens on the planet happens because we let it happen, because we have free will and we have the power to change it. Universal law, same thing with what is it? Not the Hegelian dialectic, no. The universal law that Luciferians go by, which is different from the Hegelian dialectic, or dialect, whatever it's called. Well, no, actually I think it is the same thing, because it's about how, like, they have to show us what they're doing first, and then, if we don't rebel or repent and turn to Yahweh, we're agreeing with them, so we're letting it happen. So yeah, I think that is, like, about the same thing. The universal law and the Hegelian dialectic, almost. But it's, like, kind of like with the order out of chaos and divide and conquer thing tied into it. Overall, we let everything that happens happen. This is gonna be, like, really drifty, but let me keep going. So, now to go back to when I was in North Carolina, and I heard this song, which is gonna be the background of the video, or at least the video that I just found with the song, because I didn't know the name of the song. I couldn't even hear the lyrics. I just heard, like, the tune, but I could tell it was Lil Wayne. And that's when I started, like, seeing different, I guess I could say maybe visions or something of different things that happened to him, but also my dad. And this is where the point comes in. I heard this song in a car that I was driving down the street at about 5 a.m. because I had just got out of the storm shelter thing that drops you off on the side of the road at 4 a.m. when it's 15 degrees and snowing. So, this was December or January. 4 a.m. laying on a bench looking up at the stars and a skyscraper as well by, I think, a bank. I was watching the sunrise and watching the stars go away. And as I heard the song and started seeing everything that happened, I even started getting, like, what I guess could be maybe, like, epigenetic generational passed down trauma and memories. Because, of course, as I already said, my dad liked Lil Wayne because music appeals to people under certain forms of trauma-based mind control. Now, of course, both my parents went through the usual essay that comes from generational curses of Marine Kingdom spirits and other spirits. And just from the normalization of older boyfriends and girlfriends, but it's not even really talked about with the girls either. The girls get blamed for getting essayed, and they get kicked out for being pregnant by 50-year-old men. The boys typically can't really even get caught in it because the woman's going to have the baby, but still, when it happens to boys, they're told that they're lucky. So, of course, both of my parents' first boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, were chomos. But also, as I mentioned before, my dad was SRA sex trafficked by lawyers and judges, MPO officers, when he was a kid and a teenager. And so, of course, he liked Lil Wayne. And there's also a lot of side trauma, even still to this day, with his Jezebelic, emotional incest mom. But anywho, so I started getting the generational passed down trauma of what happened with my dad, and then I was kind of like crying a little bit, and the sun was rising, and I just remembered the tune of the song, even though I really couldn't hear it. I couldn't even tell what was being said, but I could just, like, hear the tune. And so I remembered the song since then. That was some months ago. And, well, that was probably more than some months ago. What was it, like January? But, yeah, so some of the things that led up to him being turned over to the reprobate mind and becoming a quote-unquote narc or a high-ranking Jezebel, which, as I've said before, one of the common things that leads to people becoming Jezebelic, like, even with the feminist thing, but I'm not even really focusing on, like, specifically women or feminists or even lesbians, because that goes hand in hand. But like, it's just like, like, the thing that leads to it commonly, aside from, like, all the prison trauma, especially with, like, the racial thing against melanated dudes and all the getting turned out and fighting for your butthole in prison, as, like, these effeminate thug personages commonly talk about. Simply getting essayed and having nobody to talk to about it, and having no one tell you that what happened was wrong or even explain what happened to you and, like, help you work through it, leads to people becoming Jezebelic. And it's like, I remember when I finally had found out about Stephen Darby, also sort of kind of Tiffany Buckner, because I used to watch her videos at 14, but especially Stephen Darby and Deliverance Chronicles too. But especially Stephen Darby, he was the first person I really heard talk about this specifically. And that's why I always say, when I found their channels at somewhere from like 12 to 14, although I do think that just due to the stuff I used to watch, I came across a couple Stephen Darby videos maybe when I was like about 8 or 9, but like 14 especially, it really helped me to feel better because I finally got to see that there's other people out there who have noticed what I've noticed and who see what I see. So, here's an add-in. Something that I've always said, when it comes to the trauma-based mind control part of music and media, an example I commonly use is how, like, people have terms like quote-unquote black people music and quote-unquote white people music. And I know this is like a big term in the US. I don't really know about anywhere else. Even though it's kind of weird since like all the music types were made by Judah Tribe Yasharel, or True Yasharel anyways, but anywho. So, the thing about this is that it's really just that certain music is made to appeal to people under certain types of trauma-based mind control. So that's why, for example, the song Timmy Turner by Designer, a quote-unquote black person, especially a true Yasharel, would say that it sounds great, but then a certain quote-unquote white people would say it sounds weird and scary. Just like how you'll notice that, or as I mentioned before, I noticed that in the homeless community, a lot of quote-unquote white people like rap music because it's made to appeal to people under certain types of trauma-based mind control who have been through a lot of trauma, to make a long story short. In fact, there's a video out there of some Asian dude saying that quote-unquote black people saved his life because rap music helped him feel better about his experiences as an immigrant. It even makes me think about Ha Ha Huey. While he passed away under mysterious circumstances, some people believe he unalived himself. He was dragged into the feminine thug persona. He's an Asian from, I think, Los Angeles, but I know for sure Cali. I think he had an immigrant family, abusive dad or stepdad, and extreme poverty. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of siblings, a lot of physical abuse, dragged into the whole gang stuff or wannabe thug stuff, and unhealed trauma. He used comedy to cope. And of course, due to the fact that a lot of people believe he unalived himself, most people are just saying, well, he's a coward then, and he didn't take care of his family because he had a girlfriend or wife or something and a kid. And that's the thing. Dudes aren't taught to talk about their trauma. Really, nobody is. It's all normalized, but guys especially aren't. And this also can go into the whole effeminate thug persona, or more so, what I also like to call the down low feminine thug persona, which is really from thuggy priesthood. That's where the word thug comes from. And I know Deliverance Chronicles talked about the whole thuggy priest thing, and it actually made sense because I remember, like in the Lego Indiana Jones games, the racist ones where you run around beating up dark-skinned people, or whipping them more so and stealing their treasure. There's characters that you can buy, like the Indian slave boy, or a thuggy priest, and they're Indians. So I noticed, the term there. The removal of the dad agenda also plays a big role. I know people try to make this a racial thing, but honestly, it's really not. This is, really everywhere, but people just don't want to admit that. In fact, Truth Tiger just made a video about his own experience with this, and it's titled, I think our fathers didn't love us or weren't there for us, something like that. And it goes into the whole agenda, which is that pretty much they take away the dads and then they get the dudes to look up to these down low, even chomo dudes who are angry and run around hurting people because their moms hated them. Their dads either weren't there or weren't allowed around. And they've been getting trapped and R-worded their whole life by random men who claim they were going to be a father figure. Which also goes into the whole sagging thing, as I've talked about plenty of times throughout the years. And that goes back to Virgo Vasal sodomy rituals, actually in slavery, not prison. But it happens in prison too, of course, because prison is another one of the human cash cow system / cash for kids system branches. It's a dumping ground for traumatized people, also people who really didn't even do anything. And it's literally just a Virgo Vasal sodomy ritual fest. And it's done by design. That's why guys come out narcs or Jezebels who are DL or more DL with more paraphilias. They even come out chomos a lot of the time. Because it's done by design for you to be thrown in juvie and be essayed and sodomized by the adult staff or adult prison, where human traffic victims are thrown in for being trapped, or just other people are thrown in from a young age to be sexually assaulted all day pretty much. And I even had a human traffic victim tell me that the guards actually set up the essay. They set people up to get essayed. And of course the guards are doing it as well. Because it's a really I don't even know if it's weird to put it like this, but it's a well thought out ritual, abuse ritual, that's against the laws of the realm of the spirit, that fractures the soul and messes people up really badly, so that's why it's done. And I talked about this before in the video that if I remember I'll put in the description, where I go over the whole, what was his name, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, the whole, it takes a dog to raise a man, and how people, a woman who's obviously been essayed and probably witnessed a lot of DV, or has experienced a lot herself, had said that it's better for a boy to be gay than to be a thug, or than to be like a domestic violence dude or like a serial unaliver. As if that has to be the opposite of being gay, but all that stuff is really the same. Being a thug is being gay. That's what it's always been about. It's about angry dudes who have been tortured their whole life and have to repeat the cycle for rituals. I think that's the same video where I mentioned the whole thing with T.I.'s son, which it's just a lot of stuff with that, and like the humiliation rituals, the racial stuff with that, and people loving to talk about how these abused industry kids are silver spoon kids and how they're just spoiled. But anywho, so of course they turn out their own kids. So people were talking about how King Harris likes dudes and how his dad was trying to deny it because quote unquote black culture is hyper masculine with the bullcrap thug stuff, which is actually false masculinity. And it's like, people are just so confused, and that's what they do. They put these rappers in people's faces, and they tell them that that's going to be their image of what a man is, and so it's like you're either violent and angry and down low or turned out, just like the Greco-Roman soldiers and stuff, the Spartans, who also were chomos, or you're gay or quote unquote gay. Really, I guess I could say more so effeminate, because like being gay and being effeminate, or the ideas of what femininity is, and like having feminine mannerisms doesn't necessarily even have to go along with being quote unquote gay. So I forgot what point I was getting at, but I know something else I wanted to talk about. So one, if I was in this situation and I tried to SH0T myself in the chest due to SA and other abuse, and a relative just told me let it all work out, I would totally beat them up. Like, honestly, definitely not. Like, that's a crazy response. And it's like people just hear stuff and they're like, oh, it's just a song. But it's like, these are literally like people's life stories. Like how people say the music is self snitching. But it's also just people talking about their life. This also makes me think about the Call for an Uprising dude. And how he once talked about Lil Wayne being in love with Drake, and also how Lil Wayne said that he got R-worded in the behind and he liked it. And he was saying it just shows you how sick this dude is. Now, of course, he's definitely done the same rituals on other people at this point. In fact, he even had like a similar Diddy type thing going on where I don't know who it was, but some industry family gave him their 5-year-old for her birthday, and I don't know if you could still find that video anywhere, but yeah, so similar to the whole thing where Hillsong and Justin's mom gave Diddy custody of him for, I think, his 13th birthday, or just, I don't know, some point in time with him being in the industry when he was a kid, and he had custody of him for 24 hours. Which is really interesting because I've never even really heard of like people even signing papers for something like that just for somebody to spend a couple hours or a day with somebody. It just shows like how crazy the whole situation is. Like the fact the contract was signed, it makes me think about Rumpelstiltskin. But anywho, so it's like it just shows that the Call for an Uprising dude, honestly, a lot of things he would say showed that he was really not trauma informed as much as he talked about things that revolved around traumatizing people, or he just really didn't care. But also, it's really obvious that he had issues, like racial issues with True Yasharel. And I still believe that he's like COINTELPRO, but even if he's not, it's still just I don't know, really the usual mainstream Christianity truther channel stuff. Like he wasn't intertwined with the religious organizations, but still a lot of the views he held, especially about True Yasharel, showed that he was still mostly like similar to mainstream Christians enough. Like I even remember that video where he was saying people of color are allowed to run amok, and then he wonders why quote unquote atheists would talk junk about him and say this is why we wouldn't be Christians, which I'm not into the Christian thing anyways, but this is why we would never believe in God or the Bible because you're all racist. Lastly, it makes me think once again about that post my dad made about being the last straight man on the planet, which Jezebelic dudes or quote unquote narc dudes make posts like that all the time. It's so common for them, but it's really unfortunate because the moral of the story is that people aren't getting the help, attention, healing, or people to talk to that they really need. Like my mom's boyfriend even made a post some months ago talking about some, on my 17th birthday, however many years ago today, my idol Tupac, the real gangster, was SHOOT and racist cops. And it's like, that dude's an actor, he's in the bloodline, they're all down low, all the thug stuff is fake, etc., etc. He's just a puppet. And you notice that a lot of the rappers are also actors. Same way I always point out how Donald Trump was in the movie Little Rascals. He played the rich dad. It even reminds me when my mom's boyfriend went on this rant about how he'd be willing to have sex rituals with Biggie, Tupac, all those different people just to get a chance to meet them because they're his idols and they're the real deal gangsters. And it's like 40-plus-year-old men and women are so brainwashed and toxic. It's honestly scary that these are the whole respect your elder chomo people that I talk about all the time, my run-ins and issues with this specific age group, from the chomoism to the toxic Jezebelic women, people 40 plus and even sometimes 30 something plus. And it's like, especially the ones in the South and especially in the black community, but the South in general. It also makes me think about this T. Zandos interview, I guess, which was pretty interesting. I mean, definitely a lot of weird male behavior stuff going on. But skip past that. It makes me think about a point where they kind of asked her about, like, when or why she started dressing like a girl, or like the stereotypical feminine way of dressing, and she stopped wearing, like, I guess kind of like what she's wearing in the video below, or as they would say in the UK, tracking and trainers, or like sweatsuits and Nikes. And she said pretty much what she realized is that if she could get guys dressed like a dude, then she could definitely get them dressed like a girl. But the bigger point is that she realized that really the dudes who were getting with her when she was dressed like a dude were gay, and they saw her as a quote unquote nigger with a vagina. So she realized that if she dressed like a girl, she could maybe get some guys that were actually straight. And they were dudes in the DL effeminate thug persona who pretty much kind of saw her as a dude in the effeminate thug persona, even though she's a girl. So that also makes me think about this. It also makes me think back to like how, oh yeah, like I said before, chomos like transgender kids, people who are gonna have really any paraphilia or be trans or whatever, or even intersex, are often gonna be neurodivergent or fit the autism label, and people who are anointed or prophetic are also neurodivergent. Everything really goes hand in hand. The patterns are always there. And also, like I said in another video, autistic chomos get with autistic kids. It also makes me think about that as well. Even thinking back on that statement T. Zandos made, it reminds me of how, like, aside from how a lot of guys like trans kids, a lot of guys just like trans people in general, which I mean, I'm sure everybody already knows it. And it definitely does go into the whole DL thing. Also, like, what, I don't know what I was about to say. Okay, I remember now. So, people who are quote unquote narcs, commonly neurodivergent, commonly Jezebelic people are anointed or prophetic. They develop paraphilias. Usually they've been through SA. So, often Jezebelic dudes get with Jezebelic women and vice versa. Like the situation with my mom and her boyfriends. As far as my dad, he would typically get with lower ranking Jezebels or people who, I mean, they weren't abusive. Some would be like enablers or flying monkeys, but he was different from my mom. He didn't get with like other abusive people. Usually. But anywho, so like the dudes will always be saying, see females, they're too masculine. Especially when it comes to the whole thing with the black community, but really, the America is like really under the Jezebel spirit, so it's like a really common thing in men and women. But anywho, so the dudes will be like, the women are too masculine, but it's like they're attracted to other Jezebelic or quote unquote narc people or other abusive people, and both of their gender roles, I guess you could say, are reversed really, because like they're in the DL effeminate thug persona, and the women have had to like take on a lot of stuff they shouldn't have had to. Like even back in the abuse evidence videos, my mom's boyfriend would always be like, I know you don't care about what a man is and what it means to be a effing man, but a man likes to be listened to and stuff like that. And one of the things about it though is that since these types of people usually didn't have dads, or they were abusive or not allowed around, and they got dragged into the whole rap bull crap, they are really obsessed, and it makes sense why they would be, with trying to figure out what it means to be a man and how to become a man. But I always say there really are no real men or women. Everybody's traumatized, messed up, age regressed, etc., split. So I mean, it's no real anything out here. Everybody's just being what they have to be. They're trying to do whatever. The point is, though, they get with the type of women they do, and the women get with the type of men they do, because really they'd rather be with somebody the same gender. But also there's like some stuff where like, I feel like especially with women, they feel like, well, if I get with a dude who likes dudes, then like he'll be nicer or something. I guess the same reason they like to befriend gay dudes so much, I don't know. But yeah, same way the guys will be like, well, technically I'm straight because the transgender person is still a woman, or they're saying that they're a woman and things like that. It's really like a lot of psychological, reverse psychology stuff with that. This interview also shows issues with religion, religious dudes with sexual issues, and just the hypocrisy of religion.